Hi, folks. This is your friendly neighborhood Mr. Thomas, and I'm here to give you a video tutorial on project number 2, and it's called the Color Harmonies. Okay, we covered the Color Harmonies as part of chapter number 2 in the class textbook, and it talks a lot about the expressive latitude you have when using colors in any artistic work. And by that, I mean you can use color, of course, as you know, in print work, graphic design, of course, would be included in one of those. You can use the power of color in video and film work and animation work. So this is the concept of color harmonies. It's a concept that cuts across all visual media. Um, Basically, what we have here, you can see, is a picture of the Cheshire Cat from Alice in Wonderland, if you're familiar with that. And the color harmonies, as we learned in chapter 2, are different color combinations that together. These color combinations, we get them from the color wheel. Okay. By the way, not only have I supplied you with this Photoshop document with multiple layers, each layer listing a different color harmony, but I've also given you on Blackboard this color theory quick reference guide that really spells out the different color harmonies for you. I think the only one that's not on here is tetradic. We have analogous, complementary, triadic, split complementary, monochromatic, and grayscale. Okay, so basically, the different relationships on a color wheel, basically, the different color harmonies have to do with different colors that you can choose on the color wheel that are in relationship with each other. Okay, for example, an analogous color harmony that involves choosing three color groups here that are all next door to each other. So you can choose this color here, this yellow orange and vermilion. Okay, or you can choose magenta, purple, and violet, or you can choose teal, green, and chartreuse. Chartreuse. Yeah, I'm sorry, it's upside down. I can't read it. Chartreuse. It doesn't really matter which three you choose as long as they are next door to each other. That's the analogous color harmony. Okay. And you can use the wheel to find colors that are next door to each other. Also on this chart, it gives you some examples of the analogous, okay, color harmonies, and it gives you a definition of that. Okay. It also tells you the complementary color harmony, which are colors that are opposite or 180 degrees away from each other on the color wheel. First of all, we know that a 180 degree uh, distance or degree measurement is half the color wheel, but the color wheel is a full, or any wheel is a full 360 degrees. Okay. And so if we use when we're talking about a complementary color harmony, we're talking about two colors that are opposite each other on the color wheel. Okay. Generally speaking, well, not generally, all the time in this project, you can select the first color that you want to start off with. So, for example, if you want to start off with vermilion, which is right in the red family of colors, okay, the complement of vermilion would be teal because it's 180 degrees or exactly opposite on the opposite side of the color wheel. If you chose purple as the first or your root color, your first color in the color complementary, then this yellow right here, this yellow would be the complement of it. Okay, so we go through all of the color harmonies here. They tell you what they are. Okay, and they also give you some illustrations. They give you triadic here as well. Triadic are three colors on the color wheel that are equally separated from each other on the color wheel. You can see we have red, yellow, and blue. Those are that's a triadic color combination, okay, or color harmony. And how you would find that mathematically, okay, is you would take the 360 degrees and divide it by 3. which is 120. So there basically would be 120 degrees between each color. Okay, so if red is at 0, blue would be at 120 degrees, and yellow would be at 240 degrees. But of course, you can start with any color you wanted. You could start with orange and go 120 degrees from that, and then go 120 degrees from that second color. Okay, and that will give you the complement. I'm sorry, that would give you the triadic color harmony with the base color of orange. So you can choose really any base color you want, and as long as you choose the other color or colors that have the correct relationship with your base or root color, you're good to go. That's why I'm leaving it up to you to choose your own root colors. Okay, let's talk about split complement. A split complementary color relationship or color harmony is when I choose a color. Let's say, let's try something we haven't really tried. Let's say violet. Now the complement of violet is this color right here, which we are calling amber. Okay, so violet and amber are complementary colors to each other. However, we don't want a complementary color. We want a split complement. So that means we have our root color. We look at our complementary color to that root color, but we don't choose that one. We choose the two colors on either side of the complementary color. Orange on one side and yellow on the other. So a split complement would be, in this case, the root color is violet and the two other colors would be orange and yellow. All right. So that's what a split complementary is. We have triadic, complementary, analogous, split complementary. Monochromatic basically means you choose one color and you either add white to the color, making it lighter, or add gray or black to the color, making it darker. We learned in chapter 2 that when you add white to a color, you're getting a tint, T-I-N-T, of a color. When you add gray to a color, you are getting a tone of the color. And when you add black to a color, you are going to obtain a shade of the color. Okay, so a monochromatic color harmony is a color harmony that has multiple versions of that root color that are just different tints, shades, and tones of that root color. That's what a monochromatic color harmony is. Okay. Now, one of the things that I did also want to mention to you is the fact that, I struggled for a minute to zoom in and read the words that they have assigned to each color, but know that words assigned to colors are pretty much meaningless, because what I call amber or yellow or vermilion or green, and what you call amber, yellow, or vermilion or green, that's totally subjective. That means it's in the eye of the viewer. Those words are pretty useless, but many times they're easy to use because it gives you kind of an approximation. It gives you kind of an approximation of the color that we're talking about. However, when you're working in any form of art, you have to be a lot more precise. When you're working in any form of art, you have to be a lot more precise than a kind about, roundabout approximation of the color we're talking about. You have to be a lot more precise than that. So one of the better ways of basically specifying what color you are working with in a way that everybody around the world can exactly know specifically which color, or hue is a better way of saying the word color. So we'll use the word hue from now on. The hue that you are using is to give them a degree measurement around the color wheel. Now, there are different color wheels. They all have the same colors on them, but they're oriented a little differently. For example, this color wheel has red located at 0 degrees. That's the straight up 12 o'clock position here, okay? And green at 6 o'clock, okay? Other color wheels will shift red over to maybe 13 or 11 to 13 degrees going counterclockwise here. All of the other colors will shift. It's kind of like just turning this wheel to the left a little bit, rotating it to the left, but all the colors maintain their relationships to each other. But red wouldn't be 0 degrees anymore in that particular color wheel. It may be negative 13 degrees. Negative meaning that we're counting going backwards from the straight up 12 o'clock position, going backwards. Okay, that's when the numbers become negative. And of course, the numbers would be positive if I'm going positively around the circle. So the only thing you really have to do to communicate exactly which hue you are using to an artist that you're working with, to make sure that you're all using the exact same color on a common piece of art, is to first establish which type of color wheel are we using. Graphic designers have one type of color wheel, video folks have another type of color wheel, animation people may have their own type of color wheel. It's all the same hues on them, but it just depends on how it's rotated. What color is that? Say, for example, 0 degrees, right? We'll use this very basic color wheel here with red at 0 degrees right here. You don't normally see that much. Much of the time, you'll see a color wheel where red is, like I said, between negative 13 and negative 11 degrees on the color wheel. But this will work. As long as everybody is working on the same wheel, there's no chance for confusion, okay? Another thing that I did want to mention to you is also bear in mind that colors have different connotation. Another thing that I wanted to mention to you is that colors have different connotations. For example, of course, we associate the color red with intensity of passion, fire, blood, energy, danger, love, and strength. Whereas what they call red violet, or what you might call purple. You see how kind of meaningless the words are? Red violet, in this case, we would consider that as connotative of royalty, power, nobility, wealth, ambition, dignified, and mystery. And we see other colors here like blue. We associate that with the sky or the sea, depth, stability, trust, masculinity, or tranquility. Okay. Now, one thing I do want to mention to you is that many of these color meanings are really kind of biased towards a Western European and American interpretation of these color meanings. If you go to different countries, they'll have an entirely different meaning. For example, when you go to Japan, instead of black being associated with death and white being associated with life, like it is in the Western world, white is actually associated with death in Japan. So that's just one little nugget I wanted to leave with you. The fact that, just bear in mind that culturally there are different interpretations. So if you ever find yourself doing work, say you're with a graphic design firm and you're doing some work for a Japanese company and you want to express some ideas using color to express your ideas, which you should always do, know that you need to know the context in which your work will be seen. So if you have a scene that's supposed to be happy and life affirming and you use a lot of white in the composition, know that Japanese people will not see it the same way you did from a Western perspective. Okay? So now let's talk about the actual project itself. You'll see that this quick reference guide this color theory quick reference guide will come in handy because of the fact that if you want to, you can use the color picker icon in Photoshop to pick colors that you want to use from this color wheel and then apply them to our Cheshire the Cat Photoshop document. Like I said earlier, I've supplied this Cheshire the Cat Photoshop document, and notice that each layer here in the layer panel is named after a different color harmony, and the project requires that you color this Cheshire the Cat image on each layer in the color harmony that the layer is named after. For example, on this first layer, I would use colors that exemplify the monochromatic color harmony. All right, so that means different tints, tones, and shades of a base color that I choose. That is all I would use to color the entire picture. Yes, include the trees in the trunk of the tree and the background, the sky in the background. Okay. Now, nobody says that this is going to have to necessarily conform to reality. So if your sky is pink instead of blue, that is 100% okay. This is art. So that means that there are some rules, but when you work within those rules that you establish, there's a huge amount of artistic expression that you can take advantage of in your particular medium. So I open up the Photoshop document. I have the monochromatic layer selected. Notice that I have a layer at the bottom here called Original Do Not Use. That little padlock says that that layer is locked and you can't make changes to it. The reason I left that there is just in case, and I locked it, is just in case you make a mistake on any of these and you want to delete a layer you made a mistake on and you want to start all over again on another layer, you can duplicate this original layer. Don't use it. You can duplicate it, name it after the layer that you want to redo, and then do it over. Do your redo your work on the new layer. Of course, you want to go back and relock your original layer. By the way, you unlock a layer by double clicking it. Okay, after you double click it, you'll get a layer style window. You can click cancel because you don't want to use that. Okay, so if I wanted to, I could duplicate this layer, this original layer, by selecting it, as you can see in the layer panel, and then going up to the layer menu and going down to duplicate layer. Okay, or what I could do is I can control click the layer. That means hold down the control key and click the layer, or right click the layer and choose duplicate layer. That's not it there. Let's try this. There we go. I control click the right portion of the layer in the layer panel, and duplicate layer pops up. When I press on duplicate layer, it'll ask me, okay, what do you want to call the duplicate's name? You give the duplicate a name. Okay, let's call it I don't know, tetradic. Okay, click OK, and the new layer that I duplicated from the original layer will appear above the layer that I duplicated. You can see it's right here. It's called tetradic. It's selected. In order to work on any layer, as you may know, it has to be selected first, but I don't want to do any work on this. I already have a tetradic layer, so I'm going to delete this. I can delete this layer by either pressing the delete key or dragging it to this trash can icon right here. Okay. When I want to relock a layer, select the layer and click the lock icon at the top of the layer panel, just like that. So let's go back and let's do a monochromatic color scheme for our Cheshire cat. First thing I want to do is I want to select the layer for monochromatic, and then I'm gonna just move my quick reference guide to the right. I won't need the layer panel for a second. As long as I know I'm on the monochromatic layer, I'm good. What I want to do now is I want to set my color pickers over here for my bucket tool. This is probably the best tool to use for this. Your bucket tool will make it really quick and easy for you. Okay, my bucket tool to fill in each of these spaces in the artwork with a different color. Well, you can repeat colors, but we want it to be colorful. I want to really, part of this is I want to know that you know how these different color harmonies work. So in order to get that idea, I really need to make sure that you use a good number of colors, or at least the minimum number of colors. If it's a tetradic, or let's say it's a triadic rather, that would be like 3 different colors. If it's analogous, at least 3 or 4. You can use as many as you want, as long as they're all next door to each other. A split complement would be just 3. So I want to make sure that you use all of the colors that they have, or all the hues that they have listed in the color relationships. So let's do a monochromatic. You can choose a color. I'll choose a color. Let's choose purple. All right. So one thing I want to do, it'll make this really easy for you, is 2 tools you need to know, several tools you need to know, but one of them is the eyedropper tool. Okay. The eyedropper tool is right here on the toolbar, and it looks like a little eyedropper. And the whole idea with the eyedropper tool is it will allow me to sample a color, and it'll put that color into my foreground color picker. This box that's on top of the other box here in the toolbar, that's a foreground color picker, or the set foreground color square, and that will be the color that I would paint with. The other color, that's the set background color, and that is generally the color that I would erase to. So for example, if I were to color right now, I'll do it. I'm going to use let's use the paint bucket tool. Okay. and I'm going to click in a closed off area. This is the most important part. Your enclosed off area has to be like totally enclosed so the paint doesn't spill out of this area and spill all over the picture. Let's go ahead and click on the tail. It didn't give it to me. Oh, it did. It did. Okay, I'm sorry. It gave it to me. But one of the things that I want to mention, the reason why I didn't see that the color is there is guess why? I have the eyeballs on for all of the colors above it. And as you know, in Photoshop, you always see the top layer. Okay. So in order to see the layer that I'm coloring, which is the bottom of the stack, I have to turn off the top layers. Okay. So that's my first color. And actually, I told you I was going to choose a different hue, but that's okay. I'll stick with this one since I'm here. This color, whatever we would call this, kind of a orangey, dark orange color. Once again, hey, that doesn't really mean a lot. The fact that it's on the fact that it is, that the name, it doesn't really mean a lot. What's really more important is where it falls on my color sphere or my color circle or my color wheel. So what I'm going to do is things would work a lot faster if I was able to choose more than one color at a time. So what I could do is I can press the keyboard shortcut X to exchange or swap my foreground color with my background color like that. See this swapped? And then I can set a new background color. Okay. Now I'm doing monochromatic, so I just can't choose any random color. What I need to do is I need to choose a color that's a tint, tone, or shade of this original root color that I painted his tail with. What I'm going to do is let's go back to our eyedropper tool. The keyboard shortcut for that, by the way, is a letter I, as in eyedropper, letter I. Click on that. It brought me back to the color that I colored the tip of his tail with. And so for monochromatic, what I can do is I can just choose a color that's slightly lighter, like that, maybe significantly lighter, like that. Okay, so now you can see my new foreground color is a tint of the darker root color. All right, now I don't have a color wheel here. I have a like a color square. Okay, but it works pretty much like the color wheel. Okay, actually it's a little more useful than a color wheel for what I'm doing right now with monochromatic because I can easily choose lighter going to the left or darker going down or going down to the left. Uh, um, Shades, tones, or tints of any color. Okay, so I have a lighter tint. Let's go back to my paint bucket tool. I can click the paint bucket icon on the toolbar, or I can use the keyboard shortcut G and click on another ring in Cheshire Cat's tail. Okay, see that's slightly different, not a huge difference. Okay, you may find it easier for this particular monochromatic color harmony to just go and just pick from your color square here. Now that's a little bit too dark. I'm kind of really getting away from my original color, that orange. It looks almost entirely like a dark gray. I don't see much of the original color. So I want to stick over in here somewhere. I can use a nice tone or shade. I just want to make sure that I'm seeing that base color somewhere in there. So see how much variety you get when you use different tints, tones, and shades of a color, even with monochromatic. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and finish this. I'm not going to talk over it. I'll just go ahead and finish it, and you'll get an idea of completing the artwork. Now to do some detail work, what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in on the cat's face. So, and maybe his claws too, so I can do a little bit more detail work. A really good way to do detail work to zoom in on the image is to, you can either type in a number into this field at the bottom left-hand corner of the interface. It says 66.67%. If I increase that to, let's say, 100%, you can see I've zoomed in quite a bit there. Okay. So that's pretty good. I can zoom in even more. I can either type in a number over 100%, or I can press the command key and press the plus key. Press and hold down the command key and then tap the plus key. And each time I do that, it'll double my zoom in percentage. So it went from 100% to 200%. Okay. You can see after I go over 100% in size, I start to see pixels, which isn't a problem here because I just want to see. I haven't blown up or scaled up the image, haven't made it bigger. I've just basically pushed my face closer to the image. Think of it like that, so I can do more detailed work. So I'm going to continue to paint my Cheshire Cat here now that I'm zoomed in. Okay, sometimes you can see that maybe you can't quite get to the edges. It can't get to the exact edges of an enclosed shape. You may want to switch to a different, more precise tool like the brush tool. Okay, the brush tool is kept right here on the toolbar beneath the pencil tool. I can either click the pencil tool and hold down, and I can see a little hidden menu will appear giving me brush tool as an option, or I can press the letter B to activate the brush tool. Okay. So what I'm going to, oh, by the way, if I need to move to a different part of the screen, what I can do is use the hand tool, which is this tool right here, which allows you to simply just drag the image around so you can get at a different area. It doesn't change anything about it. It doesn't move it literally in space. It just makes it so that it's easier for you to get to where you need to be. So I'm going to zoom in on the eyebrows in this example. Okay, and I'm going to go back to my brush tool. Notice that I can change the size of my brush because you can see this little circle here. That shows me a brush stroke, a brush size that's a little too small. Okay, so, I'm sorry, I take that back. The brush size is a little too big there. So what I want to do is I want to undo what I just did, do a either edit, undo brush tool, or use a keyboard shortcut Command Z. And then I want to choose a smaller brush size from the options section up here. This section is called the options section, the tool options section, because of the fact that depending upon which tool is selected, it will give you different options for you to customize that tool in this bar area right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click my um, my shortcut menu button right here. And then I'm going to change the size. 13 pixels is too big. Let's change it to 5 pixels. And then the hardness 0%. That means that it's not going to have soft or feathered edges. So it's going to have a hard edge like this, as opposed to a soft edge like this sample stroke right here. Okay, so I'm good with that. I'm gonna click anywhere in my image to anywhere in my image to get rid of my I made a mistake there. Let's undo my paint bucket. Okay, let's start this over again with my main face here. I'm going to use the paint bucket, G. Okay, now let's go back to my brush tool. Now I've got my nice small brush size. Actually, I need a different color. Use my eyedropper tool. Go back to my brush. Okay. I can go in, fill in details. Okay, anywhere I don't, I want to make this nice and clean. That's a requirement for this project. Make it nice and clean. Don't leave out details. Make it so that everything is filled in. So one last thing I want to tell you before I let you do, because of course you can complete this on your own, I'm sure. One last thing I'm gonna tell you before I do a quick speed run of completing this is sometimes on this artwork you'll see where they're empty. There are parts where the image doesn't have, it's not closed in. The lines are not closed in. Like right here, see the tree? That's not a closed in shape. Or maybe on the edge of the trunk right here, it's not a closed in shape. And say, for example, I wanted to fill the sky with this color right here. And I use the paint bucket tool. Watch what's going to happen. Okay. Not only did I paint the sky behind the cat's tail, but I also painted a large portion of the leaves and part of the trunk too. I didn't want that. I just wanted the sky to be that color. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to undo, and I'm going to use the brush tool, but actually I'm going to use a pencil tool. Let's use the pencil tool. Okay. And I'm going to go back to my black foreground color and my white background color by pressing the keyboard shortcut D for default. I'm just going to draw in to complete these shapes. Okay. I don't have to do anything fancy. I just want to make sure that they're complete and closed in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose a smaller pencil size. Or one difference between the pencil tool and the brush tool is that the pencil tool will always give you a hard edge. So like that, bam. See, I have a nice hard edge completing this shape. It's okay if it goes off the edge of the screen, that's fine. Okay, and I'm going to do the same thing down here. This part of the tree, like that. So now let's go in and see if we can color the sky and do a cleaner job. Once again, I'm going to use my eyedropper tool. I'll choose one of these colors to get a start. If that's not the specific tint of my base color that I want, I can choose a base color that better suits my fancy. Let's go to the paint bucket tool, keyboard shortcut G. Bam, that's what I wanted, right? Great. I'm going to color the sky here and here exactly the same. Very good. Excellent. Carry on. Okay, so I have my monochromatically colored Cheshire cat rather. And I'm just gonna look them over quickly to make sure that all the details are there. Of course, you're gonna wanna zoom in and make sure your edges are nicely and cleanly colored in. So let's pretend like I'm done with this one. Great, I'm good to go. What I wanna do is I can turn on the next highest layer, my complementary color layer. It's a really cool way to work. And I can start all over again, but using the complementary color harmony. Once again, This is where your this is where your color harmonies or color theory sheet can come in handy, right here. Okay, so remember, complementary are basically two colors that are opposite. Okay, now this is where the trick I started to show you. This is where the trick I started to show you with the foreground color, background color comes in handy and becomes very a quick and easy fix to this. Watch this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my color theory quick reference. Let's move it out here. Okay, and I am going to do this. Over here. Okay. I'm going to choose my eyedropper tool. And then now let's choose my root color. Let's say I choose red as my root color. Go to Photoshop and want to do that for me. Dropper. Okay, it's not going to do that. What I'm going to have to do is this. I thought I was going to be able to pick a color from anywhere in the Finder, but apparently I have to bring this color theory reference guide in as a Photoshop document. No problem. Let's go File, Open, and I'm going to find this color theory chart on my computer. I downloaded it to my folder for the class. Here it is right here. So I'm going to select that, and I'm going to click Open. There it is right there. So I can bounce back and forth between these two documents. That's my color theory chart, and here's my Cheshire the Cat chart. Just make sure you don't click on the X here to close this out until you're really ready to close out the window. Okay. So like I said before, I'm going to use my eyedropper. I'm going to choose my primary color, my root color, red, and then you can see that's my foreground color. My background color, I'm going to set that to the complement of red, which is green. So in order to do that, I can't just click on green with the eyedropper tool. I've got to swap my foreground and background swatches first by pressing the keyboard shortcut X to swap them or exchange them. Now white is my foreground color. Make sure I have my eyedropper selected and click on my green as my complementary color. So I'm all set between red and green. Go back to my Photoshop document with the Cheshire Cat. And now all I really have to do is use my paint bucket tool, keyboard shortcut G, click. Oops, wrong layer selected. Make sure you have the correct layer selected. Make sure you have your complementary color selected in this case. Don't just turn off or turn on the complementary color. You have to turn it on. Make sure the eyeball is visible. Okay. And make sure that it's selected. And now I'm going to, that's my green, kind of a mint green, a pistachio green. So now all I'm going to do now is I'm going to swap my foreground and background color by pressing X. Okay. And then each time I swap, notice that I still have my paint bucket tool selected. So I can, now that red is my background color, I'll click on another ring. Swap, click on another ring. Swap, click on another ring. Swap, click on another ring, like this. Now remember, I'm using the complementary color harmony, so I have to stick to just two hues. So I don't want to, I want to avoid using different tints, tones, and shades of red and green, okay? Because that kind of muddies the water, and I don't know whether you know the difference between a monochromatic color scheme or a complementary color scheme. So let's just stick with just two hues, okay? And I'm just gonna go and quickly finish this. Okay, look once again with my tree. I can see my tree like I had on the previous layer. There's a little gap between the tree in the background and the foliage in the background. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to fix that as well with my pencil tool. So I don't have any open. Oops, I need to make sure I choose black. So I'm going to use the keyboard shortcut D to go back to my default black and white colors, black for foreground, white for background. Make sure I use my pencil tool. Keyboard shortcut for pencil tool is B, just like brush, the brush tool. And I'm going to close out the shape. Okay, let's do that again. Remember, Command Z allows you to undo anything if you mess up. Let's zoom in. Sometimes don't be in such a rush that you don't want to zoom in. Okay, you're going to find that something that you're going to do often is you're going to be toggling between different tools very quickly. So it's really good to know those keyboard shortcuts so that you don't have to go over and click the tool on the toolbar. That takes a lot of time. We spend a lot of time learning keyboard shortcuts for good reason in any type of computer related application. Any time you're using the computer to do anything like Photoshop, Illustrator, Premiere with video editing, Pro Tools for editing audio, it's always best to use the keyboard shortcuts because it's much quicker. All right, so I need to go back to my red and green. So I'm gonna, once again, choose my eyedropper, click on the red for the foreground color, press X to swap them, go back to my eyedropper, click on green for the background color, and carry on. Keyboard shortcut G for the bucket tool. Oops. Okay, there we go. Let's go to my red and paint my bark there, and I'll finish up with a green sky. Okay, so oops, one more. Okay, so that's the complementary color scheme. Okay, one more right there. Okay, that's the complementary color scheme. All right. Of course, I would continue and do my split complementary. Remember, split complementaries, I choose a root like violet and then choose two colors on either side of the complement. Now, of course, when you choose a split complementary, I have 3 colors instead of 2. So I can't use my foreground background trick anymore because I have more than 2 colors. So I would have to basically, I can use foreground and background for 2 of them, but then occasionally go in and choose the third color to add to that. So what I'll do is I will go ahead and choose, let's choose my eyedropper tool, go to my tool and go to my, oops, I'm sorry, I'm supposed to pull it from here. Let's choose, I wanted to use violet, okay? And then I'm gonna use, that's violet's my root, this orange, and I can choose a lighter color orange by clicking on a higher ring in this color wheel, because see as the rings go lower, they get slightly darker because we're adding gray to it. All right, and then for that third color, I'm just gonna have to manually select that one when I'm ready. Okay, so let's notice I'm in the color theory project, the color theory document. When I go back to my Cheshire Cat document, it's the same. I still have the same foreground and background color selected. Okay, so you don't have to worry about foreground and background colors changing when you go from document to document. So what I'm going to do here is same as what I did before. Okay, I'm going to use a very simple system. I'll go orange, purple, and then this will be reserved for the yellow. I'll come and put that in later on, but I'm just going to quickly do the orange and purple right now. So orange, purple, yellow, 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 orange, purple, yellow. Even all the yellow ones blank, orange, purple, yellow. I'll do both paws yellow. I'll do that, purple, orange, yellow, like this yellow and that yellow. Orange, purple, yellow, okay. Orange, purple, orange, orange, purple, orange, orange. I'll make the insides of the ears yellow. I'll make the teeth yellow. Okay. All right. So let's go back and, well, you know what? Let's go ahead and let's finish with the tree. Okay. Once again, I'm gonna press D for my default foreground and background colors are black and white, and press B for my pencil tool to close in my foliage as well as my trunk. Okay. Let's go back to my two colors for foreground and background. Okay. Let's continue coloring my tree. Let's make the tree purple. G for the bucket tool. You can see sometimes if you choose a color that is really, or hue that's really dark, it's hard to see the detailed lines of the tree. That's okay. I wouldn't want you to necessarily feel like you have to go in with the pen tool or the brush tool, with the brush tool or the pencil tool and repaint in those lines. You can if you want to, or you could just choose a lighter color of purple in this particular case. All right. So I am going to color my trees orange, my foliage orange, and my background. It's gonna be really dark, but well, oops. Well, you know what? I do like the orange in my sky. I do like an orange sky. Okay. Oh, you know what? That's not what I wanted to do. I want to make my sky yellow. So yellow is my third color. I almost forgot I had to do that. I'm going to use the eyedropper tool and select my yellow. That's the color I'm missing. And I'm going to use my paint bucket tool to color in the parts that don't have color already. You can see this is a real quick and dirty. My dog just walked into the room, one of them. She just greeted me. You know, maybe she knew that I was dealing with some cats here, and she really hates cats. My dog hates cats, or really any other animals other than her sister dog. And they even get into it sometimes. So everything that needs a color, I'm going to assign yellow. Bam! I have my split complementary color scheme. Okay, so I think you get a really good idea of what we're doing here. The triadic, the analogous, and the last one is called the tetradic color scheme. And that's something that may not necessarily be in the textbook listed as specifically, but the tetradic color scheme is like the triadic. Instead of three colors, tetra means four, right? So tetradic means there are four colors that you're going to use, and the four colors are evenly distributed around the color wheel. Okay, so I have my color wheel here. I would need to find four colors that are equally distant. If the color wheel is 360 degrees total, it's 360 degrees divided by 4 is 90. So there would need to be 90 degrees between each color. So I could choose red, violet, green, and amber, and notice that if 90 degrees would be like a color and then 1, 2 colors in between, and then that third color is the next color. Okay, so if I could choose, say orange is my root color, 1, 2, 3. Magenta would be my next color in the tetrad or the tetradic color harmony, 1, 2, 3. Then blue, 1, 2, 3. Then chartreuse, 1, 2, 3. And then that last 4 ends me back up at red. Back up at orange. Okay, so as you can probably tell with this as well, I'll only be able to go with 2 colors at a time because of the fact that I could only pick 2 colors at a time in the color wheel or the color picker. I'm sorry. So I'll choose. I'll choose what I just did. Let's choose orange and magenta, and I'll come back and then do blue and chartreuse. I'll do those separately. But once again, I want to turn on the eye for the tetradic. It's at the top of the stack. Make sure you select it. Okay. I just jumped up to the top of the stack there. It doesn't really matter which order you do them in as long as you have all of them. But I wanted to show you tetradic because that's not something that was covered in the book, I don't think, in the chapter. Okay. So I'm going to start off with red and orange, just like I did before. Okay. Press X to swap, orange. Okay. And I'm going to skip 2 for my last 2 of the tetradic harmony. Okay. Red, orange, skip 2, red, orange, skip 2, red, orange, skip 2, press X to swap in the red, press X to swap in the orange, skip 2, red, orange. I'll just make these 2 one of my other 2 colors in a tetrad. I make red, orange, and then skip 2. Let's make this red. Okay, let's make red, orange, skip 2, red, orange, skip 2, red, orange, skip 2, red, orange, red. Let's make the eyes orange, orange, and the eyebrows red. And I'll leave the rest of the fur in his head for one of the other colors we have. Once again, let's go back to our default foreground and background colors, black and white. All right, choose my brush tool or my pencil tool, keyboard shortcut B, and that's fill in. Notice I'm doing this every time because I just want you guys to get in the habit of being able to use the pencil tool or the brush tool. Okay, so I've got my first 2 colors, the red and the orange. Let's go back to my color wheel in the document there. All right, so I got red, I got orange, I got this amber 1, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, 1, 2, 3. So I'm sorry, I think it was blue was my next one. Blue, 1, 2, 3 in chartreuse. Okay, switch it so that my foreground is in the back and my background is in the front. Use the eyedropper tool to select the chartreuse. Now I've got 2 other colors. I'll fill in anything that's not already colored. It needs to be either the chartreuse or the blue. Use the bucket tool, keyboard shortcut G. Oops. I'm just filling in the gaps. Kind of reminds me of fruit stripe gum. When I was a kid, I don't know if it still exists. They had something called fruit stripe gum where they had the zebra with all these different colors on it. And that's what this is starting to remind me of. Actually, this whole assignment reminds me of that. I'll make both of his paws green. Take your time with this. So don't just randomly slap down colors. I want to see you guys have fun with this and take your time with this. So I get the impression you're not really rushing through this. You're really doing this in a creative and informed way. Okay? All right? Of course, I'm going to make my trees green. You don't have to, but I'm going to do that. And I'm going to, you know what? I'm going to switch back to my red for the bark of the tree. I used the eyedropper tool and clicked on the red tip of his tail. Okay? Here you go. Okay, now I'm going to, let's make the sky orange. Yeah, let's make it orange. I don't like that. Let's make the sky purple or violet or blue. I'm sorry, blue. Kind of a bluish color there. Okay, and don't forget I have to finish his teeth off. The purple. And the chartreuse is the other one. Okay, so there we go. That's my tetradic color scheme. Okay, you only have 2 more to do, or analogous and triadic. Very easy. Okay, I'm going to leave those to you, but you can basically see that this is the entire assignment. Okay, I want you to demonstrate each of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different color harmonies that we talk about in chapter 2. At least 5 of them we talked about in chapter 2, and the 6th one I just mentioned to you just then. And I want you to color each instance or each layer of the Cheshire cat, in the different with a different color harmony. Okay, you have um, a lot of detail work to do with the pen tool or the pencil tool. Sorry, the pencil tool and the brush tool. And I've given you some great strategies. And so I'm going to put this up. This project is going to be due. You're going to have a little over about a week to do this assignment. And this is in addition to everything else you have that is ready. And this will stand as a project. This will be a project number 2.